Hello. Hi, everyone. We're going to get started if you want to find a seat. Hi. Welcome. Hi. So lovely to see so many people here tonight, and naturally it would be so. Anne and Alice. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Wallace, and I am the interim executive director of the Poetry Project. Oh. I'm not blushing. Thank you all again so much for being here. It's our very, very great honor to host both Alice and Anne tonight, both iconic and much beloved Poetry Project luminaries. Alice and Anne are guiding lights of poetry and poets, visionary and far-reaching in their work and writing. Within the last week, we've experienced an earthquake, a solar eclipse, and then the lightning that struck the Statue of Liberty. So it feels only apt to host both Anne and Alice here this evening. Their work and their poems are true forces of nature in and of themselves, and they are, in my opinion, the only poets best suited to accompany such events, to offer an encore that matches or exceeds and precedes these magnificent and rare occurrences of nature. We're so glad to have you both here tonight. We have two very special guest introducers this evening. Tess Brown-Lavoie will be introducing Anne, who will read first, and then Ayaz Miratolu, will then introduce Alice. Between the readings, we'll have a short break. If anyone needs a restroom, there are two in the back. And I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who is volunteering this evening. If we could give them a round of applause for all of their help. And I also want to thank my colleagues, Will and Kay, who are here, as well as Rachel, and then our other colleagues, Laura, Roberto, Anna, and am I missing one? I feel like now that we're a staff of 6, I'm always like, someone's missing. And I also want to thank Mel and Lix, who are doing videography, and Noah and James, who are doing sound. I have one special announcement before we start that I've been asked to share, which I'll proudly and bravely do here. Alistair has been working on the Outrider film documenting the work of Anne and her performances. It's a portrait documentary, and it is finished, so you can follow. You can follow the project at Outrider Film Project, and there will be updates on screenings for later this year. So now I will turn it over to Tess.
I love Anne Waldman because she's the keeper of the archive, decades of niche gossip, stuff nobody cares about that I care about a lot. I'm afraid the word gossip denigrates it, but I mean the special intelligence fossilized inside the worlds that create and sustain me. Only one glass of Vino Verde at the Chautauqua Dining Hall in the foothills of the Flatirons unlocks a kingdom of time I wouldn't have known otherwise. I love Anne Waldman because she has lived inside the strange distance from the mountains to the city, the distance that in me estranges me from either place, but she makes arrival seem possible briefly, the way a messenger comes from elsewhere and embodies a story of distance, bearing the sense and nonsense of the other world. The high-altitude brain fuck passes for a hero's journey in her voice, and Anne is the hero of that place, a singular person who finds a way to keep a real brick-and-mortar home for the outriders and their poetry in conditions of desperate gentrification. From the archive, I asked Jeffrey what he loves about Anne. We became thick as thieves really fast. There was recognition in it, and I love her for that. She's welcomed in more art communities across the globe than any other American poet. Her work is an engine of syncretism, and it's downright amazing at times. Her ambition is real and tough, but has not only helped her write across these many decades, it's also a feminist ambition for larger communities and the infrastructure needed to sustain them. Madeline says, working at a bookstore after college, I found a first edition of Fast Speaking Woman, gorgeous cover photo where she looks like Janis Joplin. I was like, wow, this is what poetry can do. Her writing is presence, compassion, intensity, noticing, shows that poetry can incorporate wisdom and span across psychic, political, spiritual, ecological space and time. She's beatific. And Mayra says, the way she crosses the street and the wind is with her. Anne is sure of when to sit and when to leave. I love her sense of timing that only obeys to itself. With her name, I imagine jaguars and the color red. I pulled up to her house in Boulder with my book, and the door was already open. Ed came for a while out in the yard there, where we were sitting with a bottle of seltzer and 3 glasses, watching her hand gestures describe the world while she's talking about how we will keep doing what she's been doing this whole time, with mountain-like confidence as everything hangs on the edge, rock facades propped over baseline, luminous at that hour of the day. Who would I be without the world she made for us? Anne Waldman.
Thank you so much. I'm crying. Oh, Lord, I wasn't going to cry. Thank you. It's so incredible to be here with all of you and a lot of people I haven't seen in a while, and just to feel that this goes on. It just goes on. It has to go on. And so honored to be with Alice and having her book come out on my birthday and all that. Just a lot of synchronicity and rhizomic tenderness. So thank you, all of you. I'll just begin and go into some new things. This first is a little intense. I'm working on this text called Mesopotamia. There's so many utopia, run riffs on that title, but I just couldn't. And then Ann Carson said, that just reminds me of my kitchen sink. I was like, oh my God. I said, well, I'll write it in Greek. So yeah, this is, it goes through time, the cradle of civilization, this and that, but this is sort of a piece after Isaiah. And you shall be broken in pieces, remnants of the land. And it shall come to pass in that day coming, odd-toed old ungulate's eyes. And it shall come that day in passing, and we intuit it, strange, unexpected, never told like this, but already told. The silence before things happen, with arrows, with bows, our passing, our coming, our tolling. And it shall come hither in pieces, they sang, because all the land shall become of hither born. They call it hither for a song, briars and thorns and targets go hither. And you will be there, a blunt axe aiming. Associate yourselves, but a weakened people, and you shall be broken in pieces, and give ear, all ye ears of yourselves, and have been blunt people, blunt as axe aiming ear gone out like an eye fast and hither. Guard yourselves, elders of all countries, with your weak tones that they never, and you never perceive your prophetic wisdom. They percolate your mind to taunt and steal your words. Guard yourselves, you old orb, broken in pieces, stumble and fall, and you can't get up and be taken, remnant of heartier land now wasted. Who broke you, beloved elders? As noon fades unmoored, you cannot hold the candle. Camera broken in pieces, the mirror gone in pieces, faces of elders under lights cracked, broken, can read no more. Weaker words go halting, Shulamite's words. My abolition is spirit. New abolitionist spit. Name is as ointment poured forth. Our bed was green. Our bed was green. Shulamite of crepe skin, Shulamite, the scream as in dark cellular music. Your light gone out in lamentation, my beloved, is to me as a cluster of campfire, old and suffering. We grow in it, the ashes, cinders disintegrate before eyes in the vineyard of mortality. Camp 4, how do they take care of us? Broken, how do they take care of us? That art you scored with tender beak and clefts of the rock is not your hidden place anymore. They chase you out, elders of softer places. Look from the mountains of the leopards. Look to their sleek destruction, and they shall look unto the earth, mute and dark, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. Where? And looking on to the earth. And behold, trouble and dimness of light will anguish the elders as they cry out, be driven, O applicants, supplicants, O elders, and they shall look into the earth for a few handouts in this trouble. See dimness of fading anguish of the old and poor in sight, the poets, then returning the stone to its cradle, and who listened, a few handouts they will remember, and they might be driven mad. And what about us here later? Where were our lines of lyric beauty for the elders? Spare a few lines, a few coins, empower our elders, a few lines, coins for the elders, and they be fed, and a bed for them, the elders, their skin that moves like lizards. And what about loquacity for elders? Why are they always misshapen, always timid and silent? A crown for the elders, where your expression would be empathy for elders, it breaks them without. And your roots are reflected on shimmers of living in the old world systems, ancient Sumerians and their scented herbs, their cypress and myrrh and living animals. And it shall come to pass in that day. The myths of illusion will die quickly, die hard. We will all see clearly the suffering of elders and how to absorb what you love, what you still remember, what you can write, and see you float by. Want to take all the daily moments coming to pass in that day and turn it into this poem. Why are you so cruel against the elders? I'll say it again. Why cruel? Elders, and it shall come to pass after long life, after harnessing what is your truth. Will you remember the elders? After all blessings to them, to notice and remember, there is a curve, a beautiful chart line of life missing, rings, whos, quarry, many circles like a notebook missing. There's a curve. There can be trembling because it is missed around the curve, hurdles to find the journey of life, the quantum leap of spine curving. We beg for your transparency and pleasure, your speeches, elders, wealth of sweat, time, laboriousness. There is restitution if we can speak. There's a way we explore ourselves through the mashes, old man, mashing old man, the way we collaborate on comfort in the body, on the deep fire auto da fe, the mashed old, on the quality of confidence, summon the old tongue to speak, on take charge, and the woman too, women old and all who pass as human elder, and it shall come to pass in that day that we could see it come in passing, that we grow kinder, writing from I. Is that identity? Is that enough, old? Is that enough? Afterwards, evolving, and it shall pass. And coming that day won't be put together again. If passing, let it pass. Forgetting elders, the wisp of memory of elder. No, how she rocked me, elder, how she rocked us. Keep showing up in the same way. All the trance dance to get to be old and turning, come out from hiding. Old ones speak the word and turn, a kind of narration, hiding. Don't fall under, although a fire of anger can be useful as a flame of inspiration. Come out from the shaded garden, minstrels with harps and flutes and flageolets, citerns, kettle drums, inspire the jongleurs, mestre de jonglar. Come, you scoffs, you minstrels, you soothsayers, expand all the essentials and make them be heard from your ancient larynx. Eyes, ears, nose, teeth broken. Glasses of the elders, sight magnified for elders as they squint in sun. Memory, take me with you. An angle, voice, mend like that favorite nautilus shell of citizen, skin and bone to sew together. And the war in a name, will it ever wash away? And will the old be sheltered as their crisis brain gone half deck on hand for this body open beyond on war ground? Will it ever wash away? Left-sided circuitous wound, will it ever wounded? Will it ever be washed away? Lineage of ownership, will it slip away? Writerly alderman, citizen, brash and graceful, skin and bones of elders, Argonauts and elders, and the Lutherans who know no humor. Slow burn as you wash and dry the elders and the Christian Scientists who, in your composition of the song for the elders, take note, palinode, where I take the bard living inside me and dash tongue out, lash tongue out, and it never happened, this plea to be kinder. Do we need to be kinder? I am just light, fragile, light show. I am your worst fear. I'm a stranger in this charnel ground, but resolute, and I won't sit down like a swiftlet or fly. I'm surely in trouble all my days, but like a swiftlet, for these are the days, my friends. These are surely the days grow older, my friends, and you shall be broken in pieces, become remnants of the land, this broken land, my friends, my friends, my friends, my friends. Thank you so much. Okay. Curandera, taking that earth, that heavy earthen kind of thing, turning it into air and light, Bryce Marden. Starts with light, continues with a jolt to prepare the dusky sky, starts in alignment or none to hazard figure who twirl things, tilt under hair, mantra, omen, with many crystal flowers, then youth, out of silence of step with 1850s headlamps. Can you trust this blue at all, this motion blue end at the end time? We could go there with Bryce, think of his evolution in the paint, not marred but marveled in a den, body all around you, TV engravings in the blue grot, or sadness, sacrifice, what catches on, pathways of person always contemporary, what is being stomped, what direction revealed? Can we get to the hinter? Can we get to the remembers primal glow, orange of orchard, goldenrod, tiger's eye, holy saffron starts outside, rainstorm's elixir, veiled vault, the majorette, she power climbs a scaffold, courage filled with gold, insignias of boyish sans weaponry, shakes to you, blue as eye, fear and color, martial drums, a high hat, plumes or knife or boyish sans weaponry, shake again, close to you, bluer the eye, vibrato performer, you strike first beat with stick to start it, scan an illusion, a corporeal maestro's audition, get in line, a palm-sized flint shaped like a tear, Neanderthal, wherever you are, 70,000 years old, maker, painter, imagined nation's other side, industrious to enter mysterious studios, too strong in nakedness, go to origin, starts without us, not there yet, Earth, just fly over to origins or climb Mount ladder, start up the sound, start with a chant about I'm coming up out of the tomb, emotion wanting, recitation, and up the volcano, up the flood, up the quake, trust wanting, can you wish for need in futurology, wanting you to hold us this way forever after, hold ourselves, we want only that, stuck in that illusion, saw text ebb, a tune made in wood, how we take it, wood for dragon year, extinction, extraction, locked in sweet vibration, edible, then metal in the mouth, starts with inside need, then inside need, and starts with being glacial, Ordovician, needing, just let go inside, interiors, put out the lamp, or lift again, extinguish the little match lamp, supplicate the vibration underneath a surface in darkness, the heat surface, your heart reverbs, headdress like the brim of a hat is shaking, impish one, holding me together, going hot, not floating in shreds, light now, I see eyes underway in supple accoutrements, sway with radiant colors from Earth's center, everything you could imagine, blood red, comes the diamond shaman, out and not a flame, nor fear in spectrums with stylus, but shimmers down, a mind, a plan, a name, a place, hum from mouth, first break in light, moves, brush of magic, tiger tail from your eye, down the canvas, stalks of wheat, pulse, shift in horizon, generations of preparation to strike the joy of canvas, an alchemy of flicker, to hold forever mocking in that gorgeous frame, trickster to hold. I could do birth, create landscape, and figure out a plan, make light. I could do death and all in between as you steer forward, landscape and figure. I could do it all. I could do human in the shadow body, her brim, the hair, the veil, the shield prod with an electric jolt, every corner of limitless parity, grid nodes of visitation, radiant colors from Earth's center, everything you could imagine. Blood red comes the diamond shaman. Future burnt of leaves. Unredeemed, what echo of you and the dried flowers downstairs, bits you left, cyclamen a moon ago, a week ago, and you had handmade in a sentence, and what Myra of the roads who wrote down, who are the ones one loves? You walk your half track and you wanted her to take you another path outside dust, and you were taken from us, and they all know you, the poet parts and the place in on with them. They know you, the continuous, she said. Modern will jump to that and will ride that poem. Oh, forest, oh, rigor inside the dancing cradle of all your knowing. Bernadette met you at the station, see a way together. It was a Dutch in the matter of water up. Mooring Spuyten in eastern deluge for a date and not look back from the airplane to Chicago where we were going to her, for the forest was a red eye. I was distracted when the car left, not take what you can never get. Still like the Medicis when they went out the candle, a circle of sun in our time, a scaffolding jubilant. You were taken, all those scaffolds fighting back, taken, provided for by a sponsor we call Angelus. Your funeral in the dream, started up like a Sibyl, erect in her promised prophecy. My surrogate, what is waiting for her? Why not? No. Now 10 steps up, and as we used to stare together out a window, will you return more summers and pardons for the deeper hiding? Hidden, the child said, over and over, hiding and staring. Iran, not taken. But it was a picture of destruction around the corner. The little man turned, someone more than English, and was only one just off a base of duty. Could be a student who loved patching things. No curiosity, the others, coming back to imago, a tango. Frontal wilds are the floral rites, coming in dozens. It was a fold up that way, the other country. When Ed was there, he was dozens, made the pictures glow round and round. I thought a funeral camera should burn in death. It's a moth light. Oh, tell me about resurrection. What goes on in November when we give thanks, a virtue on the end game. Dark, 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 those eyes, huge lanterns in the dream. Sear, sear your old love like talk. Mother, profile, he said of you, was like his mother. Ed said, I am not here inventing mothers for you. A profile, it was between our wars, stilled by your letter. What could do the day? An imposter, another war, another, we said it, we jolly up the sigil. It was not really lightning, what Tuttle calls an appliance hell on Earth Day. Holy mountain being normal, becoming engineer, I dream mermaid Myra, to rally need to the parts of all the writing we worshipped in her. The sanctified poet Myra arrived swimmingly to the code. She mechanized the work we salvage, as there was once a place by stones to feed the mothers we never be there pleaded. She said, lapis, God, mine, a lapsus. We stay in Alan's gaslit bed. Notations in many books, you'd call this hand vigorous, a curly stroke upwards, waiting and wanting the parts and one-liners scribed in those books beside the real ones, like a broken chair and not a sea of voices. Eliot would sing of votives, feels no ended in waiting to church, wanting you gone gets older out of the pattern. Do you know my blue Krishna, Krishna, suddenly perish on a quantum, my lady of the locked doors, your hair wet and waits for wind, never conduct from up higher. I am arming the troubadour, Amitabha Buddha, in red allure at your side, the notes booming. A city, a dry what you said in your reef. A city, a salvage, and on the motorcycle saw whiplash, the German girl inside her dress like some brackage did, x-ray and tremble purgatory. The last bastion is always too light. Lady in your summons, kind lady in our deep summoning, I slept the Angelus to reach you, stretched, bent kindly, horoscopes of bulls and rams and rocks and tea leaves, the morphine, the table, the wisdom, the room that is a swan going out now to see this magic swan. Right action says away to the creek where all the ashes go. midwinter kneeling, friends in the carrier waves, and near where Auden ran in the morning, jowls for daylight. I first thought thoughts of love. You did this to me, I called. I slammed myself away from you, won't answer a doorbell. Home, valley, 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 looking through the wrong end of the telescope. The details get diminished. Milarepa far away with his nettles. I am what is lost, putting what will first come back. The folds consume us, upended ones can't get a glimpse past you. One morning when taken. Which softened the near for Lynn Haginian. When she died, I was seated in nostalgia. Oh, my music of ambiguity, but not hammered. We are fitfully purposed woe. We are her advocates, an ample side, continuous in a ring of hearts, broken in parts in her Russian skill. You not loved me, she said best. Her poem, subject, intellectus, the shake of face, an adjective down, and the women are held in skyas, in a mode of deference and sidelines, but rising skyas. I would not listen and think murder and passion too close of music, Gesualdo, and she brave to take him on. Tasso wrote somewhere, the settings and repair could do that too, fix it. The unnoticed composed of fraction, but her observation, all instruments call evening, the tree, love, knowing to song, free and well-tempered rebirth, all the sentences we have for favored forever in her. I melted this tune for her, Gesualdo, and why? Merciful as I didn't have touching you my truth, but burn here hers fierce and honest and torque. You have no eyes for Tarkovsky. His tragedy, she laughs. Ha, I secretly did, a victim of such beauty. Chambers of a tune, orders of the crossing Madonna del Parto's belly is testament. Bear thy thrust of swords, a prayer the arrow poet sits on, thunder, reduction, our times, what required, burst of that slow film, harmonies of seizure, immolations, stutter, invent a backtalk in mind will say, modern Lynn knows she does the illness, the want of beauties we live and knew through her perception. Lynn knows cinematic episode, reedy harmonies of living what is familiar in an epigram, and I saw the nostalgia of my time and went to my faith, the characters with heat and in water, family and memory, adrenaline dreams, courtyard cleaning, gleaning, the detritus, our whirl in a field forms in spirit of possibility, a small candle to save mankind, and I heard her first this way in gorgeous ruins, saving Kuklaminos, another term. Gesualdo was the charm, unbroken epistle, a tide, thistles, the madrigals like pain, a tide, no one talking to talk, a genius, and you shall not have loved, written in vain, ever so fitfully inspired. And this is, the list goes on. These are a couple of maybe shorter ones. Poem with a line by Barbara Guest, Midnight in the Chrome Attic. You were just beginning to hear the whole impossible timing, an unsettled dream of jazz in the room, buzzing in the room inside of tables in the Alamo, hitching through the Bronze Age. Never wanted an automobile, but now how old, wanting only a radio. My auntie at the glass factory, her primeval Ford never could envy its noise and emptiness. Iced tea goblet, warm brown golden glass, a green frog, door stop, lump put to the light, oceanic green. She never wanted a radio nor library, Aunt Jo. Useful thing to everything, a thing after a war. The room was made for us then, left bank style, the clothes for you, made up to match the girl on 125th Street. I wanted to be her and her baby that might look like you, the hand on brass nipple, a warmth the likes of never told spittle, the eyes upwardly worldly, keen to love you, horn that is a horn of plenty, upward and float you couldn't, I'd say, the edge of the lamprey. Paris always true to be held, and they were amassing Vietnam, another false start for gelded war. The French get started early in the morning. I was stymied over Algeria, my friend says. You know nothing about occupation. Why so deadly? Cult of dead, once more to die. Simple, hate this, roll over my arms, all of you, until music shifts purposeful your hearts. You can instantly go to heaven when you fall or sing this as I kiss you. So, but not without name, jazz that could wean you off death, chasing the train, fought draft, and never came home. And this is Jimmy Schuyler. Jimmy Schuyler scries future utterance. Lying there on this grave feels great. Locusts buzz in the trees. It's been hot, but it's cooling off. I hear an Inca dove, Alice Notley. Screenshots of Pebble Beach. Storybook sea lion. The mermaid. The disheveled scholar. Maybe where he lived, a rocky tower. Fashion animal. I was happy that the fur hat made it into the book, but more especially the flowered scarf Alex Katz painted deftly as air of regality, animalia, when we were less adamant and also ignorant of the pain. Was this creature harmed? Surely, and the guy on about the karma of the karma of the karma, a Buddhist talk. It's better not to stick the knife in yourself, red fox blood, oh, going too far. Reminds me of headpiece painted on Yvonne Jacquette's head, protecting ears, fake or classy too. Maybe headgear made our faces more holy, more hirsute. So the red fox hat that Lin had given me and caused such consternation on the Boulder Mall became target of male rage. Tom Clark and Ed Dawn were on about it. Bulletins from the front lines of the Naropa Poetry Wars. Waldman is stomping around with such authority in her red fox hat. But as I said to Ed's wife, Jenny, and Tom's wife, Angelica, they were being wives then, standing by their men. Standing by their men. It's always springtime in Boulder. Fur on the mall, really? A fashion show? Alex had said to me, even before that, in the zone of New York School's second gen half meets first gen history, about wanting, demanding that particular scarf he had seen on my head, gypsy style. Were we at Jane and Joe Hazen's party, New Year's, Mars Goldie's, Kenward's, maybe? The turn in the turn, he said, meaning the silk and the knot and the pattern, you know? This scarf came from Joe Brainerd. The beloved Joe could give such beautiful things to wear, made people dream about you. Jackson McClough had said to me, wear jewels, wear beautiful things, and they will dream about you. Assignations and caves, intricate luminous thought runnels about flights and spirals and angels and passion of detail and shadow and intricate flowers and an Angora type richness. Wear jewels, they will dream about you. And portraiture and identity like a Vermeer. I was just poet, ready to serve. Humble milkmaid gazes out a window. And Alex said, that scarf, you got it? He'd seen it. Bring it. I brought it. I wore it. He caught it. And this is called assignment. I'm way, way up these days, Joe Brainerd. 1, maybe you could start out showing Sharon your Brainerd pieces and talk a little about those. Then find a quiet place in the apartment for the interview and start out by reading the letter Joe sent you about writing I Remember. Do you have the original? That would be amazing. If you don't have the original, these are the lines I'd love to have you read. I am way, way up these days over a piece I am writing called I Remember. I feel very much like God writing the Bible. I mean, I feel I'm not really writing it, but that is because of me, that it is being written. I also feel that it is about everybody else as much as it is about me, and that pleases me. I would love you to read it a couple of times, once like you normally would, and one more time a little slower, just so I'm sure to have it. Also, please introduce it briefly, like this is a letter Joe wrote to me in 1970. Then talk about the first time you met Joe. What do you remember about him? How he looked, how he spoke, his demeanor, how you became friends, what it was like to be friends with him. For this part, it would be great if you could start your sentences with, I remember. Do the same thing for the first time you read, I remember. What struck you when you first read the text? What are its qualities? You grew up under very different circumstances than he, but what were the things you could relate to? Talk about your history with the book, what it has meant to you, how it feels to you now, 50 years after it was written. Talk a little about the publishing history. You were the first to publish it with Angel Hair. Anything else you want to say about it or about Joe as a person, as a writer, as an artist, as a gay man? ID yourself. Super short. Something like, I'm Ann Waldman, I'm a poet in New York, and I knew and published Joe Brainerd. This is Line with Ted Berrigan from John Godfrey. I break the shaft of my spear over my knee and kiss a patch of concrete, John Godfrey. Never snorted, exact identity, who were we? Back room at Sheldall's, he said that way. Uh-oh. It's wrong, it's all out of shape. Anyway, we can jump forward, it will appear. It just says great things about Ted and walking the streets and loving everything. We were just snorting DMT or something. It doesn't last very long. Doesn't last long, so you can time to get an egg cream. So this is Satanic Spending, Midsummer's Night Massacres, Norma Cole. Move over quarter inch, you won't live less you do. We're worrying, no room. Style this expertise expands time, not time to fret, die enough. Money has an enemy, Chuck Stein says. Out of control, anthropological, older wound, investigative, but not enough. Crowd is retaliating, a world, a sheen in the eye of storm's bloodbath. Future looks like stray cameras, dead investigators, time, space, dead news, dead the wars of them, blood and all the earth's sand, my clay, my humus, what you all of it, all of them say of it, but all them all stand and warranted. You mean okay, exactly, cold ash, construction of liquidations, meticulous vengeance on minds of nihilist philosopher, her sweet hello, getting it wrong when you touch anarchic, wrong, not that kind, rung out, but run wrong, getting affiliation, not just base rate, quotidian chop, action, lust, not now naming days, scheme too, but naming anyway, all same, run wrong in a TNT burst, dollars, the debt, all wrong, satanic spending, violet or marigold bargaining, oh my lord, the munitions, the billions, killing if scum ever matches or marches, it will be on the dead watch, band a trinket where math is spiritual as bodies count, mount, so there is no more room beyond revolt, heaven's gate you doubt, go beyond my darling, lock into the bomb house of no cease, your love is on the freeze, nothing left here but sobbing, dirt and sheltered flesh, complicated and exploited. Saint Therese knew innards, the ends in sight, you cowards she knew. And let's see, just a few more here. Okay, it's a longer one from Martha Diamond. I mean, so many. Okay, I'll do this, and this sort of goes with the first one. Ancestors, step forward with your activist substance. And then substance, spirit and shadow, is a artwork, a triptych by Bill Jensen. And so this was written for an event honoring him at the Schnabel Gallery. Wonderful painter, some of you know. And there's a quote, you graze the real world. It's from Jean Cocteau, Letter to the Americans. I remember my troubadour mates and I went to the Albigensian land to see who was best warrior, a better alien of patriarchal time, a better artist slipping through the fissures, not barbarian but with a strong pulse and could move inside all the fabrics with ease. Nettle, armor, skin, paint, encrusted memory. Tender, slender body, I could move quickly. He was inside the cave, made the walls vibrate, depicting love and annihilation. He was all about our world. We must invent it and save daily, not dally with ghost enemy, watching the ghost of a new time with ghostly humor. But form was always emptiness, syncretic poetry, and I wanted to meet all the demons in my head, all my generation imploding and wooing our Europa, what were we and where, and wooing our Asia and our Africa, our utopia of land and blood, small tantric bubble of sorrow and gaff and puffs of smoke, matters too intimate, old traffic with robber death to animate and destroy, antimatter, the next continent to rob, what crest, awake in agency, that was a motto, awake in the school of miraculous future, all speeded up the studio school in a tendril of ghost light down off MacDougall, emptiness of spectre, the formula of that twist, conglomeration of tendencies, reality, smoking, mirror, a grab, a gab, our ayatanas intact, gateways intact, eyes, ears, nose, mind, the loud path of Dharma, in dangerous times going long, hard, useless repetition of prayer and mantra, pigment to restore imaginations, what didn't bargain on many world systems come and go, kept saying, if ever to meet demons in my Head rhythm through dream, keep. A new beginning, distraction, and again, begin again, distraction of wilderness mirrors, reflections in void of sound and song, tipping points crossed, code red. And then industrial, make something start its own engine at the epicenter of traffic with robber death, for that was our motto, fight debt. Maybe better, emptiness of specters, so willing, and wrote it down, the journey, the cloud, come, the paintings, drawings, the muscle, in the shadow of all those, the Kali Yuga in your mouth. False idol in the stream, fisher of men, what exists, ready yet, what we be in muscles on for rise, and the partner also in heavenly dream house sacred. Oh, Zazila, when clouds would come, Zazila, how much poison in a cloud, how much liberty as it passes. We were competing to be king or queen of our rafts and of our little boats and craft, to remember our hallowed halls, our institution, art. Theirs turning toward God, adverse the turn away. False idol in the stream, fisher of men. What exits ready yet? What that we be? We be that of going last, art, or anarchist rule of poverty of our time and the music of it. No heart for crusade, but his own, for it held in dungeons so scary, said the sooty dream, the sooty dream, and in garment pockets, fragile missives hewn like gems, rock hard, diamond locked, paralyzed for centuries, oldest Dakini cult, language, ancient room, cuneiform of ancestors waiting our turn, or coal was proper and dangerous, fill your pockets with tariffs, and I had my voice and my generations, and he kept saying if he could, and only kept saying, don't grow old. A kind of crystal ceremony, a poet dance, generations don't grow old, we never did, what we might break with gansers and enchantment to tame others we did, he said, kind of solemnity in the break of bread, of dawn, of life, the epicenters of the effects of new climate we built centuries ago, false aspiration in the pockets of our vision, our utopian mind, small sliver of wisdom. No, a golden or modernist bronze age. And my companion, this beard guy in dream, was surrounded because he, they, it in mix was on amongst his reign and quarreled with authorities. I call deciders in my many visionary texts over speech because outspoke. He overspoke. He outspoke. He innerspoke, writing to our president as he lay dying. A new idea for mankind. In the dream I overspoke a lot, my lot in life. Woe, mankind, but my mate was afflicted, racked the royal of extraction, instruments being called to attention, a drone female of her species, drones for the jaguars too, and all the deafened others. Praise, rise up, songs for the librettist of all this, and histories of mad poets too, their cry for ink and voice. Key to the asylum that is in the window, in the lineages, and with tresses on my head, I spoke a lover's song, stay awake, my desire, and call all the artists out to the town square. Stay awake, my friend, my alien guide, and call the hour out, oh Devon, hour of reckoning and shame, and of our mission down and drawn to keep the work going, threading the continuous tantric knot again. And I was in Toulouse and cried the scabbards out of hiddenness, placed them in a room where you turn in your guns, and we had stone too, and all the medieval instruments, iron, stone of stone, sediment, arrows sharp and deadly of words to argue the choice of weaponry. Those in the hell realm, don't fail, my ailing mate, saw our friend hungry installed, and this in his seat, the Kong days traveling in Berkeley and Vancouver, long nights restless and with mares to ride, the mead hour, the dreams of this being a dark time, talk the night in the mead hall. I always said this in discourse, we held grace and more deliberate since it took a longer time to get that way, our generation and time of lineage. We held our grandchildren, the children tenderly than you had, back to the USA, dreams of conquering with heart, Magellan's gems to be found, growing spices on the long, long trip. I swore with the weathered Kipu, 7 seas and 7 senses and 7 sins, hieroglyphs taught both evil and love, and quantities of chattel damned and possessed and neglected the future wrath to come over ownership. Our scared capital will go down with all the toxins, shortcoming not to see it coming, sweet restless wraths of wrath, race of wrath, poor holy knights, riders of oil. Where are you now, Mistress Greed's amulet, modest and like poultry hung? Prince of Orange likes you and all the right people. Maybe Ma Dompna, the troubadour, desires humility. Who knew how she makes cudgel on this, and much in love earned in Romania. That was my former life, she mused. Great land and income in the land of Salonika. My Vita dreamed to be troubadouress, or a lady of one woman. Strong and savage is my hand, and on this place this song. Blessings from you, Père, poetry. I rain it to fight the enemies we must be in our bruised sky. The fire doesn't oil sands of Alberta will not notice your suffering. You made this world and its being and its continent crazy. Blame the borderlands, the barbarians. More carbon in atmosphere today. A fueled planet stalls and the city quakes more than sum total of all living matter on earth. Never wake from your present dream. We felt the quake and we saw the sun liberated. You taught me, but I told you how, still watching from the tower, wars below, and the eclipse come and gave the sun its liberation. So next, Devin's up with me for a little closing ditty. This is Devin Braja Waldman, a great companion in the music and life. So happy to see him. And this is from Extinction Aria. And this is it's an album by that title and Siamiki. And this is a part of a longer text that will probably be in Mesopotamia. If Mesopotamia. Da 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 da. If the human is lying down, it is pretending. It is an it. It is always a it. It is a she. It is a not she. It pretends and does not know what it is. It thinks, I am this. The human is under the influence of humanness. Human, it troubles, it waxes, it is atavistic. Da 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 da. It does not want to wander anymore, and it can't stop its cybernetic capacity. A dance and destroys. It is dances and wanders. It communicates. It is the best at this in all the realms. It can talk and take risks. That's what it is. And it means to be human. And language is the ink, is imperiled. Not he, but something in between is desirous. And the human wants to be in between. It is complex. Oh, human, the contour of you is innocent. But because you make up things, you are dangerous, ever in incantation. You are aggregate, porous, ahistorical, and you don't get it, 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 ridding the world. Humble objects, where are they? Everywhere in the landscape. Do you notice? Go be looking. That tree, which is an ash, sit down under the walking trees. I want to have legs and ink. I want to be my own portrait, a full portrait. Ink will tell it all, light and shade. A bee in the ear of the human, the starling in the beak of the human. How talk to the wind, and talk to the wind and come to God. If the warmonger is inventing a battle cry, he is ready to go, and he thinks, I am a God. You will know this by an easy slogan, and words will be cheap. I am a God. Simple words that are signaling assemblages that have power. And if the warmonger is insistent, he is surprising himself. Him, it is always him. He's then turning to the mirror of himself to worship himself, and then turning if he seems to trace an enemy. He needs to do this. He will. It's what he is doing, an imprint for the psyche, for the habit. Laid in capital, brought down nature inside, ripped its guts, no umbrage. The warrior, a sum total, out of memory and love. Was it only after a kill could you love your own death, experience of passing through? This is the enemy, but the one manufactured a beautiful enemy, worthier than you are, holds secrets of da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da. Ink knows this. In creating weaponry, lights the optic nerve, took long and hard. You will be a machine of death. The drawings are complex. They fly and go up in the sky, and you can be a child again. As you die, you see red, and ink knows the creation of enemy. Spirals, lope, and waves ink makes. When it is blood, it is vertigo. It is a kind of revelation. The enemy was reorganized by your uniform, your hair, your standing on end, the terracotta warrior inside the mind, the pink of rocks becoming pink of sky as you die, selling weapons to make you love your enemy. Ink settles like the bloodshed it is, rapid deployment. Devaloka, place of the gods, anything you want, all the pleasures you could ever imagine. And will you aim? And will the seat get hot? And you fall off? And the sky is not blue and will not hold. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Wow, Anne, beautiful, powerful, thank you. That was really stunning. We're gonna take a bit of a break and then we'll come back and we'll hear Alice read.
2 days ago, the moon crossed over the sun, throwing the shadows slant and changing the weather. I was up in Vermont with friends, and at totality, we could look straight at the sun. All around us, everywhere we looked, was sunset. The field before us turned into a lake. The sky simmered. Sitting in totality is perhaps the closest physical experience I've ever had to reading Alice Notley's poetry. Her newest book, Being Reflected Upon, came out last week with Penguin. I see these left-justified poems in most direct conversation with her 1998 book, Mysteries of Small Houses, continuing Notley's inventory of worldliness, now expanded to the otherworldly and at times extraterrestrial. A Greek chorus of poets, translators, friends, TED, mostly speaking from the other side, frames this book, commenting on the past and present as actors in a packed theater. The theater itself, drama and plays and the audience and actors, elevates the collection to the level of the stage, almost as though each poem lives in its own universe between curtain rise and fall. Here's Alice. Nothing's true, I thought, during the play. Nothing about the world anyone says. Meaning goes slant. Throughout, Notley builds on a directive she gave us years ago, and the poem as good as anything. I like my poems. They're as good as rocks. In Being Reflected Upon, rocks become particles as scale shifts between earthly dust and an alien sense of galaxies. A repeated use of the year, which she does throughout her work, 2007, 1970, 2015, 1997, appearing every few pages, tethers these two lenses, creating a timeline that loops. She uncovers strangeness and comfort across both, micro to macro and back again. It is the objecthood of poetry, she suggests, that holds these states together. A poem is something you can have. You read it and have it. And again, I have nothing to show for my time but my poems. She returns to place, as she does throughout her work, Needles, Iowa, New York, Paris, with characteristic attention and remembrance, never sentimental. I find refractions of my favorite Notley poems throughout this collection, the talkiness of January, the loping architecture of At Night the States, the directives in The Prophet, the syntactical impermanence of your dailiness. Memory is the stuff of myth, and the atmosphere the book takes place in, that my memory I can't lose because it makes real the whatever to exist. My memory becomes you. Despite these remembrances, as the title suggests, this collection stakes itself in the present, almost as immediate as the feeling of being in the theater. Alice Notley's most recent books are early works, the Speak Angel series, Runes and Chords, Telling the Truth as It Comes Up, and Being Reflected Upon. She still lives in Paris, France, writing, thinking, and talking. Please join me in welcoming Alice Notley back to the Poetry Project.
How wonderful. It's wonderful to be here. Like Anne, I'm in tears. This book that I'm going to read from is dedicated to Anne. Being Reflected Upon is a memoir of 17 years, 2000 to 2017. I had a first breast cancer operation. We older people talk like that.
in 2016, and then I had the treatment, and then in 2017, I decided to write a lot of poems, and I wrote these poems over the course of about 6 months. I was trying to figure out what a thing was, what a happening was. I was trying to figure out what had happened between the year 2000 when Doug Oliver had died and the year 2017 when I had just finished this treatment for breast cancer. I didn't know if that was a thing or not. I didn't know if that was a thing that happens or not. So this book also has a rather important epigram, if I can find it. Where are you? From Essay in Style by Frank O'Hara. I was reflecting the other night, meaning I was being reflected upon, that Sheridan Square is remarkably beautiful. That kind of poem. It's lovely, no more radiation treatments, though everyone prefers being alarmed about politics to poetry, and that's a mistake. But it's a crisis, of course. I'm so happy not to go to l'Institut Curie, at least for months. I dreamed of an empty body last night, a decision as to what necklace should be put inside it. Last June, you knew all this was coming, yes, and every day, writing poetry, creating the real world. I answered the phone to a telemarketer on Thursday, and a voice says in French, "I'm calling on behalf of Monsieur Lorenzo, the medium." I hung up laughing and thought of Lorenzo Thomas. After he died, 2005, I dreamed he burst out of his coffin in Chicago, the Diversity Street house where we first bonded, 72. He was wearing a shower cap, but seemed to be exhorting me to what? And dust. There was dust on him. It was a long time ago. Vietnam. My brother's just back, I said to him. Who would have thought, the poem says, I'd be still alive and in Paris, France for the health care. This dusty form is my beauty crystal rock necklace. You're smashing, Lorenzo, great poet. Who we were, I can't figure what lasts on a tiny planet of phantasmagoria except one's love. Don't look at anyone with any words or stories. It's very pale, like spit or clear snot. Just happened to be here buzzing. There's a reason we love you, swirling like ghosts around you. But I was trying to remember the past 3,000 years. Sex concentrates mystery that permeates the universe. Are you an audience member now? There were never and nothing ever. It happened like at the Bataclan. The audience gets shot to pieces. If I could have enough space between thoughts, I'll find out who I am. But you know, and we love. I came to this venue to pay the price, didn't you? Or the kosher food store. Shrinking, the mind is. Because internet too fast buzz, that wasn't what I said. It was in the highlands, going together. Everyone is moving around like game pieces, not players, really. There, beauty, there, I'm hoarse, this is how we can. All these loose motives, stop it! I don't have to offer the thing. In 1919, my mother was born, my mother, my grandmother, these people, Libby Press, we know who you are, reality. I am reality. I call to all you spirits, all you saints to cleanse the minds of my living adjuncts. Betrayal. I keep going back to that word. The French like it. Trahison. The French are partly me. In micro-particular disposition, I sing. I'm most fascinated by metaphysical betrayal and its off-color quarter tones. I mean it, that a bit of matter could humiliate another, like in a beginning when of angels No, I believe they play me like a winning king, but in a future I know already while scourged. I remember when X and Y made Ted miserable until he died, before he died, but that's before the time of these poems of my emplacement in the zeros and later. Do you know that all history is happening at the same time? And see the future if you scry gross matter. It is 2007, someone dear having died. I am on an airplane to San Diego and suddenly see blue and orange geometrical formations around the periphery of my vision. Both eyes. Is this part of the poem? I'm the singer of tales of bliss and structure of the universe yet unperceived. Is it built like what I'm talking? Is it in fact structured when I write? Voices, Ross, the dear dead, speaks to me in the kitchen to say he's happy. The dead are happy. I later believe some are sad sometimes, cyclically until they work it out. My poems help them. That my poems help everyone, that I am restructuring whatever this is, that is everything, so that nothing's lost but placed, new pieced into a collage of the transpired, remade into a transcendental richesse, opening of graves. Gold light burst out, grave of light, gravid of light, grave Alice and laughing Allegra. Ocean of chaos breaks collage of tones you know, and who I was, am, and will be come back to me in an enormous betrayal by who once left heaven, all those wanting to be matter, my own body. Born no one can understand, born no one can comprehend how many possibilities we once were before anyone deceived a rock by breaking it. Ross, tell me what? You got it, he says, and what you've kept to yourself is cool, but the Fibonacci series being no longer, how shall we say, these irrelevancies, they slide into the collage. I say, yeah, he says, that on the other hand, anything will do, any glue. Because I was upset at your death, mine eyes did break, not into tears, but figments, colored particles, castle battlements, they call them, swim before me. Collapse, I rise again, for I am everything participatory in the earth world's illusions. This is an homage to Ross. All that exists communicates, cry a little, cry. Betrayal that there is dying, though death the other breathes. I need water. To remake it with microtones. I'm sending you a big bouquet of roses. Not being this person, think of another. Am I or am I not with you in Rockland? We'll then go to Edinburgh because I'm reading an Inspector Rebus. There is a tiny coffin. The wind sings Marie. I'm wearing it as a talisman. Several times the Russian microtonalist Gubadalina explains that she had to look up. I first met Carl Solomon at the Gotham Book Mart. Or is this 12-tone a dozen? The city is breathtaking but only human. My plan is to stifle my humanity. No one knows what I mean. Do you, Alan? I was not reborn, he says. Your system is correct, and I am here and anywhere. Edinburgh, a city of humiliation. What would be good for a confessionalist to say so I could be reviewed in the New Yorker? City of, what's that word for what I? Free association, they said. I am not human. I freely associate, raising and lowering the tone. What are you trying to remember? Big black castle pasted on the new collage. Are these just notes for a poem? Maria asked of a California girlhood. I could say I am now an eschewment. I am remaking even you with the pieces, or are they the first, the new ones, recombinatory, or their smallest bits? Are you of your times or one time? I will always be with you. Anything I would remember might be you, even a false one of the Museum of Hearts and Corpses. I'm taking letrozole for breast cancer, so I'm plugged into the culture. Nonetheless, I say I, so you can understand me, but only I know what I am. At this micropoint in the wind, that I am also. The cure. You start and then you make rules for yourself gradually. It is predicament same how to live but why. Animal habitudes so complex, or am I an uninherited mind that obeys no rules of my species? I perhaps speak as a badger or stork, and if I am granite, I've gathered my mien together over millennia, my mean and adamantine depth, the spars and no junk. Keep portraying something. I just don't want to. In 2003, I am diagnosed with hepatitis C and write In the Pines and co-edit, introduce, and annotate the collected poems of Ted Berrigan. The treatment, legendarily grueling, strips me of weight and moral confidence. My liver is scarred, but do I have that or anything? I perhaps speak as a bat, wolf, bear, or owl, with its terrifying howl in the forest wild and drear. It's connected by song, too. I can see the atoms singing to each other, can't you? I was welcomed into the French community of medical patients, in which you're treated regardless of worth, monetary or social. They treated me, and I wasn't pretty, jolie, ou française. What is being sung, the song of your location, as physical one whose molecules observable cohere? Can you hear them? I told the story of myself as folk and vibrated to lead belly and man in the long black coat. I had often worn one myself, blind Willie McTell and careless love, the species motto. I am watching the election, now, but politics being shitty species behavior of competition, domination, and looking for excuse to hate and beat up, so don't do it, a line from the theme song of Beretta. It was just one of those things in my head in the kitchen mornings recently. Also, I'm wild again, beguiled again, etc. We saw an emu with its head hole staring at us in a zoo last week. American culture now figures nearly naked women singing songs they wrote too. The turtles' heads pointed all in one direction. This is how crazy you caused me. How crazy you caused me. You caused me to leave my home. Everyone causing everyone everything. None of these folk beg forgiveness for being like ones they are, material fools. I was the soul of it. You forget how to hear my whispers, deaf as posts. Wood, the tribe of wood, that is. I would have blood taken. I was tested, was anemic, had rashes, and pondered my interferon-caused depression, pitying my doctor during the gross global warming-caused canicule of '03. She couldn't take the heat like me. I carried a chilled injectable dose to Chicago so I could read poetry, and met Mrs. Green, a housekeeper at the U of C faculty club, who placed her hand on my heart and prayed to Jesus for my recovery, one of the genuine thrills of those years. I assured her she probably wasn't suffering a recurrence of her cancer. Last time I was there, still alive, had retired. A Parisian acolyte of a guérisseur had also in her boutique suddenly put her hand, even fist, against my heart. They were worried. People love each other, don't they? Don't they? And the animals we disrupt so huddle flesh to flesh. It can't be right how we do things. So I could see better, I became myopic as a child, fiddling with the particles of your soul, the wind as advisor, or I accept none, nothing but a cure. What is conscious? In quotation marks. I just had the most awful dream. that there were 2 swimming pools indoors, and in one my baby was suddenly bloodied, then disappeared. I looked for the baby in both pools. We were all in bathing suits. Couldn't find. And then suddenly the lifeguard, a man wearing glasses on his high seat, said his daughter was sorry if there had been something not really linearly, but in the way of dreams, integral. And I said, "You're telling me in front of all these people, you, the universe, are telling me my baby died? You mean you didn't know?" Doesn't matter, it's the only thing here. I wake up crying. And isn't it the only thing here? On the previous page of Dream Book, I see I've written, "The monkey is dying, Alan, Doug, mountains with trees. The 3 bloodied men get back up, one now without a hand. Follow me all day, bother me," I say to dead Syrians. I'm trying to change the composition of the universe. The lifeguard resembled Remington P. Patterson, practically R.I.P., my teacher at Barnard of Elizabethan and Jacobean drama, the bloodiest fucking literature in the world. I don't know who these people are. I am so trapped bodily. I recently thought, call the mind the body and the body the mind? No, it was more like call gravity mind and mind gravity. Any other scenario, as long as the baby doesn't have to die in the primal pool. If you say this is raw, I reply, by whose rules? By whose definition of life? Are you asking what poetry is and if it's of use? Nothing's of use. But I'm just babbling because someone died the first time and a man on a throne apologized. No one's well guarded, of course. I've always said, don't follow me. Now I frankly think that you should. Otherwise, you won't know when I've changed it. It's all in flux right now, renameable. Whatever you do, it's your mind holding matter, which is mental in place that's shifting as you see it, with your brain of stars shattering its name and furniture. None of the governments are here. Your ideas and theirs blood external, the hoax of coagulation. I call it rampant. Some joker's playing his popular music again. Let it all happen, collapse, and fly out of yourselves. The only sticking togethers of the molecules of soul to tell each other we exist. That's all. The universe is vanity. I heard him. I heard him talk to me in my mind and tell me what to do, which I did. And he was right, though dead. I wrote to her, and she needed me to. The thing is, I heard myself talk to him without control, didn't know that I'd say it. I said, "You." He said, "Yes." He said, "It's for Albert." Now, the I that said, "You," was not the one I was going along with in the daily way, getting ready to unlock my door. I didn't know anyone was there, and suddenly my own mental voice said, "You." Furthermore, he replied in my voice, was using my voice in my head. That was about 2009. I've become another. I know what I know, you say. I know almost everything. I don't know why we have to live this. I'm not even sure we're really participating in. Do you think dreams are slipped into us by? I like to run because it isn't like moving, so reminds me of dreams. A man's making friends with a heron in the pond at Les Buttes-Chaumont, photographing him this morning. But he's mine, my heron. Discreetly, I don't tell him, but I may. The heron came towards me once, almost left the water, but I didn't notice soon enough and couldn't stop moving that way when you run. In the same park since 1995. Remember the flasher, the first one? I've seen several. Different countries and races. Some preoccupation in face, same preoccupation in face, and annoyance that you interrupt. Brought the tone down. I don't like being a person. I prefer being a mind. All the tones sound together, wind chime-like or raw voice graph, without having to understand. I'm needy. So what? I pressed my forehead to my brother's bloody forehead in a dream and came away with his blood on mine. He has gray hair now when I dream of him. He's aged in death. I've been helping him, and vice versa. I remember dreaming the year before he died, he wore a short-sleeved red shirt with a black stripe across his back and was saying goodbye to his kids in my mother's backyard. Is there a beauty in as if the Orestia, my poem, Iphigenia, is about us? Is the Orestia more than gruesome? Who did this to you? Or was it even done? What was done? Who killed someone? Why is another only bent? Do you know I was an advanced archer? The only important thing to say is, and that when my father spoke to me at my door, it was as if he had to translate. So for the last 7 years, I've been trying to discover how the dead communicate with each other, trying to overhear them. They and we holding it together, talking, everything, talking, mind. Doug, April 21st, 2000. I was called by the nurse at l'Hôpital Saint Louis. You must come immediately. What's happening? Just come. Later, I made her confirm these are his last hours. I've recorded this several times in different ways. I summon family from 2 other countries, but mostly I sit with him. When I first sat down by his bed, he looked happy, though was breathing difficultly, happy both to see me and to have arrived at this goal. Later, I'm utterly alone with him, and he, who could neither sit up or walk for weeks, I get back up, 2017, put on blue overshirt, writing can't keep up, it's too straight-lined. He, who could neither walk nor sit up, sat up, cross-legged, straight-backed, prostate cancer metastasized into spine, and looked impishly like himself. It's you, I said, again like with my dead father when I heard him speak from death. He nodded and proceeded to talk to the air in the room, called out a name or two. I thought he called Ed, Dorn, Eddie? But other words came out as gibberish. Who are you talking to? I asked, and he shushed me, finger to his lips. This continued for some minutes, this confrontation with the unseen. Then he lay back down and relapsed into dying. Later, others arrived, and he lay silently. We procured food from outside and ate. Then I went to take a quick shower in a bathroom nearby. Bonnie came and got me while I was dressing. He's dying, she said. As I entered the room, the nurse was pronouncing him dead. I seem to remember she was counting. Can this be correct? And I shouted, I love you. He tried to speak, came back to life for an instant and uttered sounds, then died. I hadn't even gotten across the room. April of 2000, the first thing that, quote, happened in this time period, I'm reflecting upon, or as the poet says, being reflected upon. The agency for thought requires, does it, interaction with the unseen? Is thinking taught? Does it start and stop? Do I think a dream? One thing we did while he was so ill was trance work together, lying in bed when he wasn't in hospital. I was using trance to write benediction, and we would say what the vision was together, each contributing its details. A dwelling at night with a lamp, e.g., or there was a field of folk, he said, and would see it, both of us, as real as, quote, these were people in a field, there was a rose petal on each's forehead, but it was later a ruby towards the end of the vision. First, we'd entered and stood in a cave, unquote, And I saw the parts he put in, and he saw what I put. We were treating his pain and trying to be together in experience which became as real as a dream dreamed is. Dream as real as life without time. Where does thought come from in you? Even if it ceases as something evinced before other living ones, as of a nervous system, it cannot be studied because of its subjectivity, and there is no good description of a thought, except perhaps in poetry. I would go back to the hospital grounds and look up at the window of the room where he had died. I wrote a lot of pages still now unpublished and forgot as much as possible. I didn't want to be so hurt again, and it was his pain, and kept it under where I thought without thinking and learned much. I have no character, I am a mind. I play at having a personality, investing nothing in it, and care for this body which we have all dreamed up together, what we did with our choice. Because I don't want to stop talking to them, the dead. It's always convenient for someone to dispose of them. I refuse to. I just start putting some words together circa 2004, and I realize I'm realizing voices from genocide, who's telling who what to say. Why would anyone want to be trapped in a body on earth? Hordes of warriors, hordes of intellectuals, as well as self-described, and sometimes there are beautiful books. Do they have them on other planets? I remember Max of Used Bookstore, 6th Street, maybe, with a tattoo from Auschwitz and blue marble eyes. Ted knew him. He actually looked at me as if I existed when I was that young. But none of those bookstores are there now, and the world is full of Holocaust deniers, another thing you can get away with as country or horde. I start writing songs and stories of the ghouls because I feel like a ghoul after the Hep C treatment. Whenever I nearly lose my life, I open out to all the others in the wind. And since there are as many words as souls or more, I can work on their insect wing encrusted guilt document. I never intended to write this, or did always know. Don't you know everything about yourself? Anyone keeping the brakes on, find a different version of Medea as culture maker, lied about, will return again in manuscript after manuscript page. She can even be funny, and Dido reclaim herself as founder of a city. Don't you know the truth is plastic? No, yes. Being the illusion of your righteousness? Mine? No, yes. And there is always a goddess sick of it. In this case, Mat, the Egyptian soul wearer, turquoise wings. You, the dead, are not free, for you beg me to speak for you. Who of ones I never knew can find me there in hermitage, waiting for company? Dead I know and don't know. I will never pretend you don't exist. There is a you, despite your culture, all these beliefs we think us and manners of being, the best among made-up standards and of compensation. What's that for? Whatever was done when nothing ever needed doing? Oh, us, fuck us. I have come to you to keep you warm. Her auction name was Grace, and she is my friend. Creating the memory collage. Because I was mourning Doug so hard, but push out onto page Alma or the dead women, I couldn't then react to 9/11. And I have placed it where I'm not but visit. It's flat pressed into the ground through plexiglass, a diorama die pun the medium herself can't handle. My son's there. Eddie later worked as security guard at Ground Zero. I tour the smell of the relics with Anselm. I had been unable to locate them at first from Paris, but I was calm. 2 months later, dreamed they weren't harmed. You put it one place, it comes at another. They were harmed. from Paris, but I was calm. 2 months later, dreamed they were harmed. You put it one place, it comes out another. I was outraged. I was supposed to ... Why bother with the topic? I can't do everything, can I? Trust the words now. It's all I have. Years after, sent the emails received from my sons and their friends as a historical document. Pages from Karen, long poem from Mariana, fear and love, more of love. And from others too, sent to my archive at UCSD as history. In Alma, away from the ensuing wars, we remake ourselves in a needle's gully, the years of the burrowing owls. Alma, whom I am, an owl shooting up heroin into her forehead, is God, the primary, with Pantheon, Mira, Myra, Anna, etc. Anna had been real in the sense of actual person, a hooker in Chicago run by John the Pimp. Oh, that's another story. But in Anna Shoots the Biograph Theater, where John Dillinger was shot, she and I were killing our biography. I assumed her dead of AIDS by then, only saw her once. She might have made it. A beautiful African-American in a red coat and makeup, repaying me for Valium lent to John for her coke crash. Anna, I've always remembered you. Where was I? All I want to keep of it, love and words, and the incredible, thoughtful resilience, the depth of goodness, la bonté caritas in my sons, on the Zen wind, the everness of a skill to say. Water. And then again, looking for a recent past that is a present, thick with time past and to come, so you know what you're doing in a fact. The idea of a spell or hex, that's the title. That you could be bewitched came into my existence again in Paris as the extensive mind I am. Europe's recent witches are rural and often men. It's more like you curse them, your neighbors. I read some more books. It's the saying of the word by a sorcerer, the word of trouble and death. And you find out it's you and become sick, breathe badly, consult a dehexer, who advises you to wear a St. Benedict medal when you go out, or fries salt in a skillet, forget what for. But all of human activity, is it nothing but sorcery? I believe I have enemies, surely, in poetry. Do you? Yes, though they wouldn't own up. How can I put this? People don't want me, to be as I am, but more primitively practice magic, naming us anyway. I'm protecting myself with amulets, sure, and writing them for you, as any poem might be that, those who are after me, but would never admit, as a village sorcière never says. And in the mind that is the poetry world, there is witchcraft practiced pervasively, naming of the so-called facts of the so-called villains, denunciations and makings of lists, who's good or bad. Do you get it? The word as death, are you white or black, is one's use of a word so powerful that you must avoid that word on yourself at any cost. I can't avoid words, any words, and wear a St. Benedict medal whenever I remember, because I am blessing you and have the power of being alone. People in groups hex each other and persecute the outsider too, but one outsider isn't really part of the fun. Was I partly living alone so I wouldn't hurt you? Too hard to explain, just protecting myself from approved malice. There are nothing but witches everywhere. All social groups cohere in sorcery. Political parties, surely, but arts movements, zeitgeists, and fads at universities, you know the verb. Or that one word comes after another, as sometimes one's work is in fashion. There are several women who unconsciously want me dead, quote unquote. I know who they are, who you are, in this theme worked out in my life since I was 10. dinner at the Prime Minister's. 2005, receive dinner invitation to Matignon, think it's a hoax. RSVP, my friends advise, I do so. A club I've just joined for international poets will dine with the Prime Minister and his wife. So I go. Fabulous Versailles-like rooms, introduced to Dominique de Villepin, Premier Ministre, also a poet. We eat at tables for 5. I'm trying to recall my table. An African, a Belgian, an Indian. Madame de Villepin sits with us to begin with, then works the tables. We are trying to figure out when to start eating. She says, attaquez, dig in. Later, a friend of hers, a classical Spanish singer, plays the smallest guitar I've ever seen and sings wonderfully. A writer from Cuba reads a poem. Someone I know, I forget who, reads 1 or 2 more. De Villepin makes a speech about the importance of internationalism and poetry. It's good, the speech. It isn't dumb or superficial. He means we all talk to each other across borders, and poets know how. Around 11 p.m., we shake his hand and leave. No one knew who I was except for a couple of Frenchmen. Was I the only American? I think so. I wore one of my dark pantsuits. No one had known how to dress, and I discussed this with the Belgians, who were men. Almost everyone was a man, except for Zoe from Cuba. But now I remember talking to a French editor, a woman, at my table. The African poet, a man, had a wonderful name like Apollo or Zeus, though he was ordinary looking, nice. Was the Indian poet a woman? I don't think so. I just remember an Indian and talking to that person. There were many Africans there. Michel de Guy was there and got cold. I think it was March. Maybe he read. I was otherwise living in my state of loneliness, still the current one. On the other hand, amazed, quietly, about 100 people. I think I ate fish. How could this have happened? It was delightful. It helps to have a palace, a big food budget, and there were no consequences, except that I can tell you about it here and say, I am an international poet. Our locality is now the whole planet. I am an international poet in touch with the poetry worlds of several countries. Do they have countries on other planets? I value the parochialism of my room on Rue des Messageries, as I loved Needles and St. Mark's Place, NYC, but the fading or bleeding into each other as we hack at others and so-called nature breaks my heart. You saw it coming over and over. Or did sexist? No one gets off. Your phones, for example, sheer escapism. Take your faces out of your phones. Look around, for Christ's sake. Look at what's going on. I'm getting there. Breast. What? Breast. One of the occasions you're the actor of yourself and good in role, or rather like when you're born and you're supposed to cry, so you do, thinking, I don't want to cry for them. I almost remember that. They were watching my right breast. I was sent for a biopsy, but no, something small has shown up in a whirlwind in the left. They biopsy that. Do you like this, the word choice? And it's cancer. When the surgeon tells me, I make sure I can schedule the surgery so I can give all my readings in the States, then I cry. Just a little, in a dry and luminous way, a short desert storm. But I don't come to care about it that much. Last fall, was it? I had tried to figure out how I'd react because I knew. But mostly being an annoyance I'd have to go through, it was given short shrift. I like that expression. I was fairly certain I wouldn't do chemo. The ones inside me I consult with said so. They said I had too much to do. But I remember after the diagnosis consultation, blood being taken, my sputtering out things in French, while a technician not finding a vein repeatedly gave me over to her more adept supervisor. If I were a mainstream poet here, I'd come up with a metaphor for my skin being stabbed and hacked. If experimental, I'd not write this poem. If a prose writer, I wouldn't be impatient or rich in point of view, complex observation. But all I mean is everything. You can't category, and no, I don't respect yours. I don't respect any religion, choice of garment, set of manners, or emotions. I was lying in bed last night realizing I am composed of power lines in thick bundles, red gold trajectories, not nerves, or in pathways, not same length or anything consistent. I'm courting this, what I am, as well as a thought system not localized to me nor dogmatic like human has become. Or was that what thought was always for? To impose upon oneself and others a way, and style. The dominant human mental state may be smugness. So I had the surgery, went to Tucson, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and New York, where I lost my wallet in a fit of uncertainty, or for one. I had to mime a condition. Came back to Paris and proceeded over weeks to radiation therapy, tattooed, strapped in, and zapped. Can you hear it, the poetry? Up that hill each day, Place Monge, small rues, then Rue Erasme. My mother had read In Praise of Folly, which referred to farts, her favorite thing. Then Rue Dôme, l'Institut Curie, they invented radiation. It's icy January, a small club of women waiting. The technicians are just kids. I like the big guy because he handles me well, and the young woman who is friendly and changes hair color weekly. You know this stuff. You know everything like this. I don't know how we got here, in meticulous relation to cancer, for example. And I detest reacting. Those the two things I wanted to say. Machines and drugs heal you, but when I had thanked my liver doctor for healing me of hep C, that was years ago, he said, you healed yourself. And I've known all along I was healing you, reader, though I was a patient. It's what I do every day now. I've nothing else left on the quotidian vanity level, or to call myself something as someone she was, you know. I think I have 3 more. Is it vibrant or vibrant death? George Romero has died. A voice says, I really don't want to be the one who knows. I say, I have to be the one who knows. Then must find out and control the smallest bits, the atoms of the spiritual, a piece of a letter of the alphabet said, or how are you thinking what really? Eddie and I watching famous oud players randomly hear that that's like it on YouTube. And quarter tones. I have an Algerian song on iPad album, Fighting Songs of Algerian Rebels, called Remember of Dead. What does that mean? I can't seem to internalize microtones that I believe I am more and write in like here. Go back. It was between that and that. When I was 5 or 6, Mama taught me the Hopi Corn Maiden song, which over years I changed, put in European modulations. Near her death, she sang it again, sounded more like Remember of Dead, between monotonal and quarter-tonal. CF Tina Turner has sung the same Buddhist mantra her whole life. Eddie picks up his guitar and plays oud like 2017. If we're always doing it, are our so-called bodies? Science thinks symmetry, but I don't. Are these just notes for a poem? Maria said. Are we just notes for a universe? But I only really think when I write. Eddie also thinks with a song, perhaps. Tina perceives love when she chants, she says. She's brilliant. There's a light to emit from person, people, talk of the metaphor. I hate that word. Night of the Living Dead triggered something like a breakdown in me. In 1972, my atoms seemed to disattach from each other, couldn't move. The model wasn't working. I say, I have to be the one who knows. Keeping your shit together or not, because if you fall apart, as too I nearly did in the 1970 Jimi Hendrix anecdote on acid, it isn't all right, but can't happen, is it? I've almost got it down. 2017, you always knew. so I could be the one who knew, because I had to. Jimi Hendrix anecdote. It happened in 1970, but I didn't know how to tell it until 2005. Now I don't want to tell it again, but it belongs. I'd like to tell it without telling it, as in heaven. It is, as I've said in the other poem that doesn't quite tell it, a benefit at the Village Vanguard to free Timothy Leary. Bill Berkson and I have taken acid together. Sunshine. I've taken a half tab and come to this room with a stage in its center. I wanted Ted to be here. He isn't, but Ann Waldman is, Wynne Chamberlain, Sally, Henry Pritchett, and the people who speak and perform, Jerry Rubin and Barbara, Alan Watts, carried up on a litter, he is ill or crippled, and Jimi Hendrix. I enter a bad trip zone in head and feel I'm at a real crisis. I might lose my mind. In the sense you, who, can lose it. Henry's face melts and I can't speak at all. Everything on stage is a drama, is psychic stage central in shadows. Jerry Rubin makes a desperate sounding speech. Vietnam, he and Barbara in tableau like actors shouting at end of world. Oh, Barbara, Anne says from audience. Hendrix later comes up, plugs in guitar, performs solo. No one plays with him or is his entourage. Finally, at moment I stand mid-room, people starting to leave, and I'm frozen, concentrated on keeping hold in head of small white thread that is myself. I'm holding on, and Hendrix walks up to me, then past, but first looks directly into me, seeing what I'm doing. I just stare, still focused, hard on holding on. Bill finally takes me out of that hell room. Outside instantly, I'm no longer high. A few months later, Hendrix is dead. There is, in fact, no anecdote. No one saw anything except Hendrix. He and I were both there in a mental point of communication. It happened. And on my 60th birthday, I tell the story to Peggy, Tom, Marion, Joe, Anselm, and Edmund. But do you see how fragile and strong my what was imaged as thread was, and how Hendrix was in passing the only one who saw where I was at? Can it be that easy to lose? And if I hadn't held on, what would become? I would be annihilated. Was annihilation a real possibility? What would it be? This thing that happened. This is this thing that happened. And this is the last poem, and this is for Anne. These are the clothes of night woman. You will always have light limbs, even old, and you can as if fly. These are their materials, she said, handing them to me, but was a younger woman and didn't care. When my mother was dying and couldn't really walk and ate like a bird or insect, I tried to feed her canned salmon cakes, bits of pasta, the house a nest for 60 years. No, I'm what woman walking behind a dark mountain on streets? I'm frightening mountain at night woman. My garment is a thin weave of granite. And before I was born alive, aged all ages in the big green room, I foresee this time of recreation. My arms are around all you, and I, as if flying, extend myself past night into neither day nor night. These are the clothes of that one. They fed on bits of manna and wore or were gossamer like moths. They were their clothes. I've forgotten to have any dreams again. I am enlarging as all that silliness dries up and falls off my surface. Oh, what you do to me. You have conspiracies against me in the official myths, but I'm so far beyond outrageous fortune that I remember not even being born. I'm going home, my mother said, but first she spoke of Pentecost, when everyone was understood in their language. And my garment is of those words, the old language, that alloweth me to move and fly, to still run in the park as if flowing, to expand, though holding you, not dreaming interknit or woven. And I found my parents I'd already known to be born in the myth of the alley, or everywhere the life would be sacred, almost an emblem, and bleeding so the colors wouldn't stay. I saw that the materials of the universe were unstable and not factual, and were inside thee or my soul. The purpose of the senses would be growth through them. You can see that we, a chaos, cohere, no matter what we do if we redefine matter. And I will see you and see you again, holding in the borderless way and becoming involved in mind. No, I'm in the green room with the clicking board, announcing the words of my poems that can change upon the instant, like at the train station. This word came up, inexact, or the famous changing woman, foreseen, and I'm omniscient. I mean, it's my time in here. I'm in control of the old language, what I am. It's always my time.
Oh, I'm so moved. Thank you so much, Alice. Everybody, let's hear it again for both Alice and Anne. In thinking about their readings, I think about lineage, a force, a gravity, a point, an opening, this expanse, lineage. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Alice, for all that you've done for the Poetry Project, for poets, as poets. You've created a place that wouldn't be possible without you two here. To show the way, to make the way, and you have shown us so much is possible at the Poetry Project, in poetry, as poets here. Deep, immense gratitude, recognition, appreciation for your work, the true work of poetry, possibility, and lineage. So much love to you both. I want to share a special thanks to my colleague Laura, who coordinated this reading and wasn't able to be here tonight. I also want to thank Tess and Ayaz for their beautiful introductions. There are books for sale in the back, newsletters. Please come back soon. Thank you all.